So we'll go ahead and call this regular scheduled meeting of the Santa Clara City Council to order. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here tonight, especially like to recognize Mayor Hart from Ivans. Welcome. We'll begin the meeting tonight with an opening ceremony and Pledge of Allegiance. We've asked Councilman Shakespeare to lead us in that. The opening comments will be offered by Pastor Greg Wright from the West Side Baptist Church and part of the St. George Interfaith Council. Ben? Everyone please rise and salute the flag.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I pray, if I could just say thank you to Santa Clara City. This last November, our church celebrated our 30th anniversary, and we were able to rent the facilities here actually for a banquet and celebration. And I didn't even know you had that here until my people found that out, and it was just a really great experience. The people that we were working with were really helpful, and the whole evening was really, really nice. And so thank you to the city for opening that up to the community like that. So
You're welcome.
let's pray. Father, thank you that you are good, and we come tonight asking for your blessing on the city and the council, that you would give them your help and wisdom. I pray that you would continue to allow them to provide a great place to live and a community that is safe and wholesome. And I pray that you would lead in that and protect and provide in every way. Please give wisdom, lead them in righteousness, and we pray that you would be honored through it. And we ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Okay, I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present tonight a full council, Councilman Jarrett Wade, Councilman Dave Pond, Councilwoman Krista Hinton, Councilwoman Janine Burton, and Councilman Ben Shakespeare. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I'd like to begin the meeting with conflicts and disclosures. Does anyone have any conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight that they need to disclose? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move into our working agenda. Item 4A, we do have a public hearing scheduled tonight. This is a public hearing to receive public input regarding the adoption of an annexation policy plan. I'll have Jim go through and introduce it, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Jim?
Thanks, Mayor. Let's go ahead and pull the map up. We can start with that. Actually, before we get to the map, if we scroll up, I believe the policy plans before the map, we'll just do the policy plan. Should be in the body of this draft ordinance. There we go. That will work. All right, so let me give the council an update and kind of a history of what we've been doing the last few months on this project. So we want to adopt an annexation policy plan for the city. State statute changed in 2021 requiring cities to have an annexation policy plan and a map, an annexation map as part of that, showing the areas that we can annex. We're looking to move forward and do that. So State Code 10-2-4015 talks about the state annexation statute and what's required. And so the annexation policy plan is intended to comply with the provisions of Utah Code 10-2-401.5 and incorporate all criteria required and suggested by Section 10-2-401.53. This public hearing this evening is an opportunity for affected entities to examine the proposed annexation policy plan and provide input. Now, we have provided a list of the affected entities. You have a copy of that, but I'll just read through those. It was sent, the public hearing notice for the annexation policy plan was sent to St. George City, was sent to the BLM, was sent to Ivans City, was sent to Washington County, was sent to the Washington County Water Conservancy District, the Southwest Mosquito Abatement District, the Washington County Special Service District Number 1, and the Washington County School District. So Those are the identified affected entities, and they've all been given notice. So I just want to go through the state code requirements and the process that we've gone through to get to this tonight, because it is a little bit different process in state code. So state code section 10.2.401.52a requires the planning commission to hold a public meeting to allow affected entities to examine the proposed annexation policy plan and provide input on it. It also requires the city to accept and consider any additional written comments from affected entities until 10 days after the public meeting within the code. So the Planning Commission held a public meeting on December 14th of 2023. The minutes from that meeting have been put in your materials that you have before you. We did receive comments from Ivins City. That was provided by Dale Coulomb, their city manager. The other affected entities did not provide any comments at that time. After that meeting, and the next part of state code, it says, additionally, before holding a public hearing required under subsection 2A6, make any modifications to the proposed annexation policy plan the Planning Commission considers appropriate based on input provided at or within 10 days after the public meeting. So city staff and legal counsel reviewed the comments submitted by Ivins City, and as a result, we did make some modifications to the proposed annexation policy plan map that was discussed by the Planning Commission on February 22nd, 2022. I've also attached the meeting minutes from that meeting. So that was the first public hearing. We did receive comments from Ivins City. Dale Coulomb, city manager, attended that meeting as well. However, the other affected entities did not provide comments. So let's bring the map up. I think it's right after this. We have two maps. We have one dated, I want to bring the original map up, one dated December 7th. Let me see if, and then the other one should be dated today's date, March 27th.
There's two in that packet if you scroll all the way down. In the original. That's,
What's the date on that
and
one?
then go up to the.
We can go with that map. That is fine. So the original map,
And then scroll all the
Oh.
way down on that. You just passed one.
Try to find it, Jim.
okay. So we had a chance to meet with Dale Coulomb and Mayor Hart after the first public meeting, which was held on December 14th. It was about a month later, it was January 17th, and we had a chance to sit down, and that's it. We had a chance to sit down and discuss their comments and items they wanted us to consider. So this is the first map that was presented to the Planning Commission on December 14th, 2023, during the public meeting. And so they did have comments on this plan, Ivins City did, and you have those in your minutes. One of the big things is up in the northwest corner, you'll see a section of property, the yellow property, where the future, and I think that roadway name is not correct. It says Gap Canyon, but it's, Mayor, help me out.
Hamlin Park.
Yes, and I know that. Hamlin Parkway, of course. They came to us and said, hey, that section of property in yellow there where your road's going through next to Highway 91, we're in discussions with the BLM and have plans to put a city yard there, a city park, and a graveyard or cemetery. And we said, okay, show us the plans of what you're going to do and how the road's going to work. Also, we have a roundabout plan for that area like we've done in other areas of the city, including the new improvements done in Ivins City off of Highway 91. So if you go down to the next map, you'll see the changes. That is this map. And so you can see now that Hamlin Parkway, that land in yellow has been removed from the plan, from the map. Hamlin Parkway is shown on the map, and then you see the roundabout. This design and location, the design did come from their city engineer, Chuck Gillette. We looked at those drawings. We put the roundabout in, and then the roadway straddles the section line there. So a portion would be perhaps in our area, with the other portion of the road being in Ivins City. And then the areas that you see adjacent to the proposed Tuacahn Wash on the south side of Highway 91 in white, those are kind of shared areas, or those are areas, overlap areas that we discussed on the plan itself.
Graveyard wash.
Yeah, graveyard wash.
Not Tuacahn.
I'm sorry. Well, we were just talking about Tuacahn on another project. Thank you. Graveyard Wash Reservoir, and this shows the, this layer came from the county or from St. George, and shows how the lake would be put in and what the limits would be. And then you see those overlap areas in white. It is county property, but it's on our map. It's an overlap area. Some of the improvements have been done along Highway 91 in Ivins City, and they're indicating that there is some utility service available. And then we have the green area that is in Ivins City that has the hash mark in it, and it's the properties on the corner of Pioneer Parkway and Highway 91. And we've shown those on our map, and those have been left on our map at this point in time. And the reason for that is, we've left that overlap in place because really it's up to the property owner to decide later on if they'd like to develop in Santa Clara City or in Ivins City. It abuts both cities. There's different points of view in the interpretation of state code, and I'll let Matt discuss that with you when we get to that. Our interpretation of what the code says and how this could be looked at is a little bit different than the interpretation that Ivins City has on the property. And so we've gone through a bit of a process here to get to this point, to adopt an annexation policy plan. We've had a public meeting with the Planning Commission on December 14th. We had a public hearing with the Planning Commission on February 22nd. They did take the input from the city manager of Ivins City, Dale Coulomb, and then they did discuss the item amongst themselves, and they did recommend approval of the annexation policy plan and the map that's up before you this evening as is, moving forward. That was their recommendation to the council without changes. Now, and that did happen on February 22nd of 2024, and they did hold the public hearing. They recommended a recommendation, they forwarded a recommendation of approval. This evening, the city council does have to hold a second public hearing because the statute and state code's a little bit different to adopt an annexation policy plan. It requires two public hearings, one with the Planning Commission, which already occurred. You have their recommendation, and a second one here tonight with the council before consideration and adoption of an annexation policy plan. Now, I wanted to just mention a couple things. If we could go to the annexation policy plan itself, there's just a couple things I want to highlight because it is a 5 or 6 page document, and I just want to kind of get to the key points. The first thing is the annexation policy plan right there. And I want to read that to you, is a guide to the orderly and well-planned annexation and development of lands contiguous to the city's boundaries. It may be modified from time to time to meet changing needs and to reflect the best interests of the community. An annexation policy plan consists of the following elements. First, the general annexation criteria, and you'll see that further down as item A. That's our criteria, so that's there. Second, a map of the proposed expansion area. That's the map we've presented to you, the annexation map itself. Third, a procedure for submission of an annexation request, and that is item B if you scroll down in the document. And item B is really consistent or is straight requirements from state code. The petition and plat map shall be filed with the city recorder and you go through all of those requirements. So that's the first person that gets it. City recorder gets the petition to annex lands into the city, makes city staff, city attorney aware of the application, and then we start reviewing it and going through a process. And this is straight out of statute. So that's clear and consistent. And then the next item, or last item, item C is extension of needed municipal services in developed and developing unincorporated areas and payment. And so there's key items here. Item number 6 to me is the highlight, so I'll briefly read that. It says, when the annexation is approved, the newly annexed areas shall receive the following services: A, fire protection; B, police protection; C, building and safety; D, planning and zoning; E, utilities provided by the city at the time of annexation; F, maintenance of dedicated city public streets; and G, other services provided by the city at the time of annexation. So the other thing that's very key once you have the policy in place and the map, the annexations come directly to the city council. This is a city council decision. As the legislative body, the city council can recommend an annexation or allowing the annexation to come forward to annex the property in, or a council can decide not to annex property in to the territory. The other thing is we have to show the areas on a map that could be subject to annexation. That's what we're trying to do tonight. There's always a possibility someone could come in down the line that shows us property that's not in our current annexation map. We would just go through the process of amending the map if that's something we wanted to entertain, if we wanted to look at annexing that particular property. Kind of a case-by-case type of deal. And so the one thing I wanted to, and I'll use your terms, Matt, add a little color to the situation, as we discussed on February 22nd with the Planning Commission. You know, we recognize that Ivins City may have some concerns. Statutory requirements at a state code require us to meet with the affected entities, and we did. We met with Ivins, who provided comments, and we sat and listened to them and made some changes as I described. The parcels stayed on the map, the 2 green parcels that we talked about. We want to give property owners the option to choose where they want to be. Also, this is a signal to the property owners that both cities may have an interest in the property. And ultimately, if there was, you know, a discussion as whether it's going to stay in Ivins City or perhaps come to Santa Clara City, that would be decided by the boundary commission that they have with the county and the property owners. So my experience in the past has been 99% of the time, although I've not done 99 annexations, I've done a few, they side with the boundary commission sides with the property owner. You know, it comes down to what the property owner wants. Do they want to be in one city or the other city? And that's the way the boundary commission goes. And so just a little background there. That's all I have at this point, Mayor and Council. I think Mayor Hart would probably like to speak, and legal counsel's here to answer questions as well.
Any questions for Jim before he sits down, council?
Jim,
Yeah.
Mayor, that probably for both, this stops at, on the south end there, on South Hills. Any reason we're not going further south at this time, or just that'll be a future annexation? That would be in the future.
Yeah, what we've put on the maps is basically the area, the BLM area that is located around the proposed Graveyard Wash Reservoir, and the private property that's currently in the county outside of the city. Those are those 2 white parcels on the south end. Those are both private. The larger one has expressed an interest, and then if you continue south to the red, that's already in the city. So the property west of the white areas on that map is area that has some concern with the BLM, and it's on the other side of the canyon primarily.
Yeah.
So there's no access or infrastructure over on that side of the canyon. It'd be very expensive if, for whatever reason, and it hasn't happened in my lifetime, the BLM decided to release some property for development, and the developer came to us and wanted to annex it in, then we'd probably modify our annexation policy and try and work out how we would provide services to that. So we're trying to limit it to a degree, pick up what we would like to have in for, you know, potential expansion of the public services around the new reservoir site, to facilitate the Gap Canyon Park, not Gap Canyon Parkway, but Hamlin Parkway road alignment that will be, it's on our city road master plan, it's on the MPO, it's on the STIP. We're getting money from the MPO to start the environmental studies, I think starting next year. And so we wanted to, that was kind of the area of primary concern from the city standpoint. Trying to deal with the existing physical limitations of the canyon, for example, not going that much further to the west. Understand that when we annex this, we become responsible for fire and police protection. So it becomes a burden on the residents of the city, so we don't want to, get too aggressive in that.
Okay.
So that answer it?
That is, thank you.
Any other questions for Jim?
I have one. So there is development. There's a couple houses off of Graveyard Wash, 1700 North. Their address is St. George. Are you familiar with those?
Well, there's two houses that are,
It's like
you're
past
talking about the
trail.
ones that are way up above, what's their guy's name, the attorney?
No, it's
They're in
the
Iowa.
Rosenbrook. It's the Rosenbrook.
You've got the
Property.
two that are in Rosenbrook, but that's on the south end. That's the large parcel on the south end. That's the Rosenbrook piece. There are two homes in the county there. Rosenbrook is actually requested, his estate's requested to be annexed into the city.
Okay.
And so that we're just that's included in there. The other piece is owned by the canal company. They haven't necessarily requested annexation, but we'd probably go ahead and like to bring them into the city because they're adjacent to the city. They're hard for the county to provide any services to. The county wouldn't get them any kind of development being that close to the city. They would require them to go through the process to come into the city, so we'll probably bring them in. That will be the initial phase of the annexation if we move forward with it, would be the Rosenbrook and the canal company piece on the bottom.
Okay.
The BLM piece would probably follow that up, and we haven't got details with it. The other privately owned parcels are the Hafen family property. It's also privately owned by the Hafen family. It's also shown on Ivan's proposed annexation policy. I think we're putting it onto ours, just allow them to determine how they can do it. Ivan's has indicated they would be able to provide utility service to it. There has been some question about that. This area all drains to Santa Clara. It drains back into the wash. And so it would be, but they can provide it. And so that's really going to fall to the property owner to see which way he wants to go.
Okay.
We'd like to be able to control the frontage on the new reservoir, so that we can control what's going into that. There's that reservoir, if you look at the bottom, the dam of that reservoir, you can throw a rock and you don't have to be very old to hit the power plant from the reservoir site. It's a tall dam that looms over the top of our power plant and all of our local generation. So the city staff and this mayor is extremely concerned that the city have some strong input in the design of that reservoir. Dustin and myself have been part of the design committee for the last almost a year. So that we're watching all the planning that's going into that reservoir. We work closely with City of St. George and the Water District on that. It will have some impacts to our residents. I was in a meeting today with mosquito abatement, talking about potential, mosquito impacts when that reservoir is built out there. There's been some concern, particularly in Ivans, and Mayor Hart can probably speak better to this because his residents they've kind of banded together against a similar reservoir in Ivans, the dry wash. And I was able to travel with them to Las Vegas a week or so ago to tour some existing reuse reservoirs in Las Vegas Valley to see kind of for yourself what those potential impacts are, talk to the managers of that. So the city's been really sensitive to this reservoir construction. We don't want it to be a burden. We understand the need for it. It is a irrigation storage reservoir. They're going to be able to put reuse irrigation water in there in addition to water that's in the Santa Clara River. You guys understand water, the more storage we have, the better off we are. This is providing some storage that can help all of us out with providing our water long term. So that's kind of the reason for this policy is kind of that right there. We want to kind of protect that watershed around the reservoir in addition to the corridor for the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, any other questions? Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Ask anyone who has come to address the council tonight to invite you to the podium. I need you just to state your name and your affiliation or your address for us for the minutes. Welcome, Mayor Hart.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you again. Yes, I reside in Ivan City. I'm its mayor, and I'm here to reinforce our concerns over the expansion area intruding into part of what is currently Ivan City. I've heard the explanations and have participated in the previous discussions, but I want to reinforce a couple of points. I'm referring to the two parcels on either side of the intersection of Pioneer Parkway and Old Highway 91 on the north side. There's a different condition there than there is on the south side, where we appear will have overlapping expansion areas in an area that is not currently a part of either city. To me, that's one thing. Having an overlapping area into part of another city, I think, is of concern. I think it's potentially a dangerous precedent to set. I understand the interest in the property owner to decide how they want to develop that, but I would like you to take into account the fact that the improvements on Highway 91 across that section of this proposed expansion area were all improved by Ivan City. The utilities are in place there for Ivan City to provide services to those parcels. Perhaps the overriding, and it was referred to as a difference of opinion, but there is a fully developed section of this section that you're showing that drops down to Rachel Drive that has a series of storage units, and at the bottom end of that, the entrance sign to Ivan City. So we're really concerned that there really is no, it's not contiguous currently to Santa Clara City. Would if the expansion areas that you're proposing on the south side ever were actually annexed, but currently there's no connection to Santa Clara City. There's a peninsula of developed Ivan City that separates those two. Before I go any further, I want to thank you for your consideration on what is soon to come to fruition, an RP&P annexation of 80 acres of BLM land that will, on which will create a substantial regional park, cemetery, and a new public works yard. So we're grateful for the change in alignment that you have put in place there, working with us. So I will just voice my concern about those two sections on the north side. We'll let things fall as they may on the south side there with the overlapping area of interest, but want you to think very carefully about those two parcels, which are actually currently a part of Ivan City. So thank you. And Mayor, would you indulge me in a very brief side trip here?
I can see the public is lined up behind you, so.
I know.
Sure.
I just want to extend a personal invitation to all of you. You're probably aware that we've been hosting what we call talkabouts. I've had several that we've hosted up in Rocky Vista University on a variety of touchy subjects in our city. But the one that is going to occur on Wednesday evening, sadly, I hadn't realized that this was a council night for you, but on the evening of the 24th of April, we're hosting one on public safety. And since we are joined at the hip with both fire, EMS, and law enforcement, we would like your residents to know that we would love to have them there. They have as much interest in this topic as Ivan's residents do. The panel will consist of of Chief Parker and a couple of his staff, and Chief Flowers and a couple of his staff. We invited the city managers to join. It would obviously be difficult for Brock unless you somehow get through your meeting quickly. But would love to have you. If you're able to come, just know that you'd be certainly welcome.
What time is it again, Mayor?
It begins at 7 o'clock. They usually run till 9-ish. With what just appeared on 2020 here a few days ago, there may be a lot of interest in talking to folks about how an investigation like that goes on. But we hope to focus on level of service issues, Ben, and budget issues, and answer questions as best we can. So thank you very much.
And that's at Rocky Mountain University?
Yes, at Rocky Vista.
Rocky Vista, okay.
They have these beautiful auditorium classrooms with microphones at all of the desk locations so people can interact, and it's proven to be a really nice venue for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Mayor. Do you mind if I depart?
Not at all. Thank you, Chris. Okay, anyone else come to speak on this item? I figured Chief would come up here and say it's going to be too much to cover. Is there anyone else here who's come to speak on this item?
I have a question. Is Rocky Vista, is that a high school or college?
No, it's the medical school.
Medical school.
It's up on 200 East and north of Center Street.
Okay.
Okay, I'm assuming that Chief Flowers doesn't have any comments, so I'm going to go ahead and close. Do you have any comments for the public hearing? No. Okay, just checking. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, council. And I'd like to, with your permission, drop down on the agenda to item C1. This is discussion and action to consider adopting an annexation policy plan. The plan is intended to comply with provisions of UCA 10-2-401.54 and incorporate all criteria required and suggested by section 10.2-401.53. This opportunity will allow affected entities to examine the proposed annexation policy and provide input on it and approve ordinance 2024-04. You can see the policy, you can see the ordinance. Council, any discussion? I appreciate Mayor Hart's comments and City Manager Coolum's comments at the Planning Commission. But if you look at the Ivins City policy right now, it covers about most of Black Desert and all of Acadia and a whole bunch of stuff that's inside Santa Clara City. So I wasn't necessarily feeling guilty about including those Pioneer Parkway parcels in there. I have been assured that they're modifying theirs, but I haven't seen any map on it. Again, this just gives flexibility for a property owner to decide. If there is a dispute between the cities, it would go to the Boundary Commission, as Jim described. So any question or discussion, council?
So I was at that planning commission meeting when this was first presented, and I've done a little research on this. So on that south section that Mayor Hart is somewhat concerned about, there is precedence for a narrow easement where that would tie, where we could tie that into Rachel Drive boundary-wise. Chicago O'Hare is 14 miles outside the city of Chicago, but they have a 200-foot wide easement that ties that into the city of Chicago. Similar with the Port of Los Angeles. It's not really in the city of Los Angeles, but they've used easements to tie that in so that it's officially part of LA County. So I like the plan, and if the property owner on that south parcel came to us and wanted to be part of Santa Clara, it makes sense that we could come up with an easement that would be able to tie that into Santa Clara.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
I was just, when Mayor Hart was talking and their proposed cemetery, it got me thinking, we have the same need out there somewhere. So, it does make sense. We have those same needs, and you're right. Councilman Pond there, this just gives those landowners the flexibility there. They can make
Yeah.
those decisions. Both cities I think both cities work well together, and yeah, I appreciate getting out in front of this. Those that have put the effort in, Jim, just getting this put together so it just gives us the ability to manage and look at and as this reservoir and everything around it, and also considering that the reservoir, albeit not in our property, does affect our citizens and below and and right where it's at, right in our yard. So having input on how it's developed and everything would be important.
Thanks, Ben. Any other comments, council? The only comment I had is the ordinance. I didn't see the ordinance in the packet. Did I miss it?
No, it's in there. It's right there.
Yeah, I could see the hard copy. I'm
It's
just
in the
wondering if
packet,
council's
too.
had a chance to review the ordinance.
Yeah, just the first page was added today, but the bulk of it was in the council packet, so.
So just the whereas section.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only new part. Everything else was there.
Any other questions, council?
I'm just curious, okay, so this doesn't affect anything to do with the Western Corridor in our future?
Well, what this does is it brings the Western Corridor into the city of Santa Clara
Okay,
from Washington County.
okay,
Now, what does that do? I mean, we would control land use adjacent to it. It's all public land.
right,
So we may or may not be able to control land use, adjacent to it. But it brings everything that would happen along on the Western Corridor would come through this body if it were annexed in. BLM has historically not opposed annexations.
yeah.
And so, but we do pick up the additional responsibility to provide services out there, so.
And maybe just for the record, Mayor, that's from the legal side, and I too listen to the Planning Commission. Legal side, maybe Matt just share that everything checks the state code, and then from why Chief and both chiefs are here, that, on record that we can provide the services for fire and public safety to these, if these were annexed, that we could provide those, maybe just for the record.
Yeah, I would say we're in good shape in complying with the state code. The one thing I would just call to your attention is the state code does task the city with attempting to avoid overlaps between our plan and the plans of other municipalities. And if there is an overlap, our responsibility is to meet and confer with the other municipality, which we have done, and we weren't able to resolve it. And so you heard Mayor Hart tonight. Of course, he was most concerned about the 2 green parcels on the map. With respect to the white parcels on the other side of Highway 91, he essentially said we agree to disagree, essentially. So I think we've satisfied our minimum obligation under the code to attempt to resolve it. There's really there's no consequence necessarily outlined in the code if we're not able to resolve it. And so we feel comfortable moving forward with this plan. Now, I will say, we don't know what this will look like down the road if one of these property owners does try to annex into Santa Clara. I would expect that there would be some opposition potentially from Ivans at that point. But as Jim pointed out, then we're in a boundary commission setting, and it will be decided by them. So, I think for what we're doing now, which is to adopt a policy plan, we've met our obligation under the code. But I just wanted to explain that to you. So,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Chief Flowers, Chief Parker, do you have any concerns providing public safety and fire out there?
I think the road access is going to help with that.
Now, development of homes, is that, or is
Well,
it just
it's-
landscape?
Like I say, it's public lands now. I guess there's always the potential, if it is ever annexed by the city, the first thing we'd go through would be a general plan. I think most of it is going to be open space recreation around the reservoir.
Yeah, so what I see is the road will help access, so.
We may have a potential cemetery site, like Ben said, along the parkway at some point in time.
And perhaps commercial along Highway 91.
Yeah.
Up on top.
Hard to say.
That's all I have.
Okay. Nothing, chief? Okay. All right. Any other questions, council?
So, I mean, what's funny is I've talked to residents and they think that those green parcels are part of Santa Clara already. I even put campaign signs there originally, the first time I ran, and they were dropped off at my house by the police because they weren't in Santa Clara proper. But just to play devil's advocate a little bit, so say those two parcels were annexed into Santa Clara, how would the addressing work? Because the storage units have an Ivan's address. Would they be kind of forced to have a Highway 91 address? Or how would that work? Does it jump from Santa Clara to Ivan's back to Santa Clara? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know
does it
exactly, but I
matter?
think you would have, if it was fronted Pioneer, it would just be a Pioneer Parkway street address, but Santa Clara, just as others on Pioneer Parkway are. And then if they did something with an internal street, that wouldn't just be unique to Santa Clara with the Santa Clara address. So I don't know that would factor whether it was Highway 91 or Pioneer Parkway, you could use a Santa Clara City street
Okay.
address.
I would like to see a developer come in and say, hey, can we work with you and create kind of a gateway into our community? Right now, we're welcomed by storage units in that area. So I think we could do something better.
And again, I think streets like that, Pioneer Parkway's in 3 cities right now.
In defense of Ivans, they did let us put the welcome to Santa Clara sign clear out in Ivans. Right now, so we'll give them kudos for that.
Yeah.
Both of our signs are in the other cities, so we got off cheap that way.
I think either way, you're gonna have that, how that breaks, just with the lines. I mean, if you if you go up into Black Desert and all that, if we looked at those maps, they would look very similar to this map already.
Yeah.
And that's, so I think what we're saying is the landowners there in the unincorporated areas really just have the flexibility. Utilities are gonna be there on the south side of the highway, whether from either city, so.
Yep. It's easier to sewer this site to Santa Clara, at least the parcels on the south side of Old Highway 91, than it is in Ivans. Everything in Ivans is uphill from that point. They'd be talking lift station to make that work, but they could make it work.
And that's a great point, Mayor. Our 2 engineers on the Planning Commission recognize that as well, whether or not Ivans wanted to hear it or not, but
Yes, all the drainage from those sites come into Santa Clara. The sewer to gravity flow, it would have to go to Santa Clara. So the property owner's got the options. It's probably easier to do the Santa Clara on the south side. On the north side, it's 6s. Any other questions, council? There's no other questions. I would look for a motion on item C1 and ordinance 2024-04.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve the annexation policy plan and approve ordinance 2024-04 as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Ben and a second by Krista.
Janine,
Oh, Janine, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I gotta separate you two so I keep voices straight. To approve the proposed annexation policy plan and ordinance 2024-04 as presented. Any question on that, council? This is an ordinance, roll call. Ben?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, council. Thank you, Jim. Item C, let's go back to the consent agenda. On B on the consent, B1 is approval of the claims and minutes. You have the February 24th City Council meeting minutes, of March 6, 2024 special City Council meeting, the March 20th City Council work meeting, and the claims through March 27th. And then just a reminder on the calendar of events, April 10th is our next regular City Council meeting. Our work meeting is on the 17th, and a regular City Council meeting on the 24th. Anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. It's Krista.
Do I have a
I'll second.
Sorry.
Got a motion by Krista, a second by Jarrett to approve the consent agenda as presented. It's in the money item roll call. Jarrett?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you, council.
Mayor,
Sir?
can I just add, it's not on the calendar of events, but just to add, on the 24th, you heard about the talk about from Mayor Hart, but also that night has I believe the Canal Company
That's that same.
is that
evening.
same night, as well as, remember on the beginning on the 17th is League of Cities, for those who are attending.
And if several members of the council want to attend that, talk about it, I think that would be great. I know I'll be at the Canal Company meeting, having more fun than I can stand. Ben will probably be there too.
If you want to take Canal, I'll go to Ivan's. So.
I'll be to the canal.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, maybe we just make a note that night for city council with those two meetings.
Yeah.
Because I do think it would be good to have representation on the 24th, well, at both of those.
I think so too.
I'm happy to attend either one wherever you'd like me. I'm happy to go to the Talk About or to the Canal Company.
I'll let you guys decide. I will be at the canal meeting. I know Dustin's planning on being there as well. So.
So did some of us get signed up for that League of Cities?
Yes, you should have received an email
Yeah.
from the league on your registration.
So we can go to that on the 24th then?
No, the
No, it's
League of
on the
Cities,
17th.
it
Oh, yeah,
kicks off
that's
the night of the
17th.
17th with a social, and then it's Thursday, Friday, are the
Okay.
classes.
Okay.
And the UAMPS training is 17th too?
Yeah, Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Item C2, discussion and action to consider approving the purchase of a bison statue from Utah Tech University, improved resolution 2024-04. Jim?
I'll be real brief. This is part two of the discussion we had last week with Jordan Sharp from Utah Tech University. We're just looking to get the council to make a decision on moving forward with the purchase of the bison statue for the city. This would be done with $5,500 in this year's budget, and the remaining $5,500 will be paid in next year's budget. It is a money item, so it was asked that it be brought back to council for a decision. Thanks.
Something we talked about last week? Yes. When Jordan was here, council. Any questions on this?
I had some residents get a hold of me that were against it. I was a little surprised, but they thought that maybe we should wait till after budget is finished and see if we can afford it with other things.
Might not be any left if we wait till the budget's approved. But council, what are your feelings?
Yeah, I think it's a good, like I said, for the city, I think it's a good thing to show support for the university and that. I think, and they're in a good public place and all that. I think from a budgeting, I like how we broke it up. My biggest question is, the artist and, the look when it's done. I think just that at the end of the day, I think that's probably going to prove probably the biggest challenge is how do we, you get one shot at it, so.
Yeah, but he did say that he had like a portfolio of like 25 artists and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they'll come with the preliminary design. As long as we get the preliminary design and that, I don't have you're right, we got one shot at it, but.
I guess not the artist, but the actual art will be
Right, right.
how we, so, but you're right. I think it'll be a great thing for the city and
Yeah,
I think,
I agree.
and visible as you come into Washington County.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, in previous conversations I had with Jordan Sharp, and he didn't mention it last week, but he said they ordered 28 of them or 30, whatever that number is. There's only 2 available. This would be one of the 2 available. 26 or 24, I can't remember the number, are in St. George City. Washington City has 2, and there's 2 available. There's nothing really on this side of the valley. So they think it's a unique opportunity as well for us to partner with the university. Maybe if we really like it, we could get the last one. I don't know. But anyways.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Well, I love the opportunity to partner with the university and mix that with some art, some additional artwork in the city, and support the arts that way, kind of that community, also bring the community together, especially if we do go forward with having a committee that's going to choose that artist or the artwork that's going to be on the piece. So I'm in favor of it moving forward.
Okay.
This would be eligible from those funds, wouldn't they, Brock?
Yeah, rap tax will.
Rap tax, yeah,
funds.
thank you.
Oh, okay. It comes from a specific arts fund.
Yes, it's, yeah, rap tax, recreation, arts and parks that we receive, so
Okay.
we'll use those funds there. So from the art portion, so there will be, next year's funds will be less available to distribute out.
Yeah, it's not coming from the general fund, it's coming from rap tax. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'd look for a motion to approve the purchase of the Bison and Resolution 2024-04.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Jarrett, second by Krista, to approve the purchase of the Bison statue from Utah Tech University and approve Resolution 2024-04. Any questions on that motion, council? Let's do roll call again. Jarrett?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Krista?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, Jim. Mayor and council reports. Ben?
Mayor, just a few, gave the welcome, the second half of True Grit this Saturday, which was great. They had a good turnout, better weather. So I'm sure they had said the weather before, I guess. They lost a few in the early mornings with,
They had to change the course the morning of the race because there was a vehicle stuck in the middle of the race course, and it took them a while to have it removed, so they actually started and went the opposite direction, and then they were able to move it and finish, I think the second lap was on the course the way they'd laid it out, so they had an interesting morning, but Cimarron says it rains often enough during her event, they're all used to it now.
it's like a well-oiled machine no matter what the weather, because they have had some tough events, but turned out great, had a great turnout, had countries from all over the world. I mean, they had, Australia was here, Great Britain, I mean, they were from everywhere. So I've attended a few of the historical committee meetings, which have been great. That group there's a lot of work, and we're going to owe Jim a vacation when this is all over, because he's putting in some long hours. So we'll just take it from Brock's extra vacation there. They're doing great. Mimi's, they're efficient and get right to the point and have assignments. So it's been fun to watch. Flood controls next week, so we'll have that then. And then we've had a few meetings, couple meetings with Ivans and one subsequent with just fire and budget. I think we've got some a good budget and good policy and for this year and things. There'll be one more discussion, then I'm sure it will come to the council to discuss. So appreciate Chief and Brock and Lance, who's not here, just all the input. Jarrett's been there, so they've been good meetings. So thanks to everybody. That's all.
Thanks, sir. Janine?
Well, I first want to say that my son has hit another birthday today, and I'm very grateful because he's fighting in Ukraine and he's alive. So it was good to hear from him today. He's been under some very stressful and making mother very stressed. But I'm glad he's alive and he's doing well. Anyway, I wanted to make a comment that I've been to a few of those Heritage Committee meetings that Jim's over, and it's been really insightful, and he's put a lot of time and effort, and I thought that the committee had some really great ideas. So I think it's wonderful, and I've been learning a lot by attending. While we were, we had that opportunity to go to DC, and that was really neat. We had some good classes and met other city council there, and it was really good camaraderie. I liked that. And I was able to meet with a lady named Clara. She's a board of supervisor and has her own chief of staff. That they have it totally different than we do in our city. But we're looking, instead of Ashburn, maybe Leesburg instead, because Ashburn is part of, from what I understand, a corporation type, what do you call it? I'm not sure. Anyway.
Part of a county?
A what?
Part of the county?
Yeah,
Loudoun County?
it's more of the county. They're incorporated in the county. And so the city next to them that's a lone city that is not connected with just all of these county cities is Leesburg, and it's really close by. So I'm working with them, possibly being a sister city with them. And then also I've been working with Sherry Anderson about the fair. I try to get a hold of the person that does art at the middle school, and we were thinking of doing a seed display, and the display is downstairs, and it hasn't been filled in with seeds, but we're looking at possibly doing that. If not, we've already decided on a lot of really neat displays that we can do there at the fair. And I've been working with Monica with the pageant for Santa Clara, and they've been colliding. In other words, I can't go to some of the meetings with the pageant people because the fair thing is going on, so that's been kind of tough. But other than that, that's about it.
While we're talking fair,
Yeah.
here's your passes. Your VIP passes to the fair.
Okay.
They make you wear a sign around your neck.
Oh,
Are we required to wear that?
This is the one they gave me that gets you into the concerts, the demo derby, the rodeo,
Wow.
all of that above. Since I'm such a big fair guy,
VIP.
we just grab one and pass it
No,
down?
that's yours. There's only two in there.
Yeah, we can only send one representative. They don't want
There's
me.
one representative from the city.
Oh,
You be
boy,
it.
I just feel special now.
Just want to, all the pictures I see online, I want to see that tag around your neck. Okay, Krista?
So I'll also report on the NLC conference in Washington DC. We had a great time, a really great opportunity to connect with leaders from other cities, especially in the Utah League, but also St. George. We met with, at least briefly, with all of our Utah delegation. We spent the most time probably with Congresswoman Malloy. Had a lot of access to her to ask her about a lot of things, transportation and infrastructure, the northern and western corridors, housing in our area, and the potential for access to BLM land, Utah's water rights and the Colorado River, energy sources, coal plants, nuclear power plants. And then I'm going to follow up and get more information on this, but Mayor Ramsey from South Jordan brought up some really interesting information about some air quality and environmental regulations in Utah that you probably already know all about them. We are not going to be able to meet, so I will get more information to you on that, but that's just a preview.
Is this upgraded in the air quality regs, or have we finally crossed the threshold? I know we've been bumping it for the last few years.
I don't know if she said we'd crossed it,
It was a combination
but
of
she said we'll
both.
never be able to meet that regulation.
Yeah,
Sounds
the
like
EPA has
They
made
may
like
be
the
changing.
guideline.
Yeah,
changing
the EPA changed the guideline plus.
Oh, goody.
Of course, the EPA did that, all right.
So
We-
she was urging our delegation to work on that as well, because we'll never be able to make that, even if we all left, was her comment. And then I asked Representative Malloy also about the community project funding. I've reached out to her Utah director, and I think the deadline for that closes in April, so we wouldn't be able to do anything this year, but potentially for next year, I'll see what's available. And then a big thank you to Lance for coordinating a lot of that. He's not here, but he took very good care of us,
Yeah,
and
you need to recognize Lance may not be here, but he's probably watching.
I hope you're watching, Lance. Great job.
Great.
Thanks for getting us everywhere we needed to go, and then back home again. We don't have to talk about parking garages or cars or anything like that. I attended the Thrive Drip Spa grand opening, not this Monday, but last Monday. That was a great event. I met with the owner, Carol. I can't remember her last name at this point, but she was excited to have us there and welcome them to Santa Clara, which was great. Shout out to Christelle. She's just killing it on our social media. She's doing such a great job, and I've also heard from other cities. My friend Kate from Bountiful City Council asked me who was doing our social media and especially our agendas, so good job. Other people are noticing as well, and I hope the residents are appreciating that. It's really great information that you're getting out there. And then the last thing, I did watch the 2020 special. Matt, thanks for the heads up, and want to commend our police officers and our EMS personnel. They did a great job. I was really excited to see how professional they were on that show, and I know there's a lot more that went into it, and heard a little bit about it from Officer Hines, so hopefully we'll get some more information as well. But great job, great representation for your city, and thank you.
Dave?
So, yeah, I was part of the NLC conference as well. It was a great experience. Good to be able to mingle with St. George, Utah City, some others. Went to a couple of different sessions. I was hoping to get a little more out of it, but they were geared a little more towards larger cities and problems that fortunately, we don't have here in Santa Clara. But I did, justserve.org did have a booth set up, and I was able to visit with them for a few minutes. They are trying to get 100 cities signed up to partner with, to have service opportunities, and they gave me some information about setting up a youth club to go along with them. So I haven't looked into it more since we got back, but it sounded like a pretty cool opportunity. They're trying to get 100 cities signed up by the end of the year. And then they do some awards and some different things for different communities and based on their involvement and stuff. So, and then the 1st of August, I'm jumping already to August. The 1st of March, I went to the solid waste facility. They had a groundbreaking ceremony. They're actually in phase 2, but they're just doing the groundbreaking for a new administrative building and a new weigh station to make the traffic more efficient coming into the dump. So it's kind of hairy how the trucks have to come in and make all the turns and everything right now. So, but they were well on their way with putting the scale house in. And we did the groundbreaking for the administrative building. So, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, sir. Jarrett?
So I think the reporting so far in Washington, D.C. has been spot on. I'll just add that my highlight was, we were able to go out to dinner with Celeste Malloy and her chief of staff, and we just peppered her with questions. It was probably an hour and a half of just back and forth, and she had a good answer for everything, and it was very insightful. So I don't know how often you can get that kind of one-on-one attention from your congressperson. It was awesome. I did attend the Washington County Youth Coalition dinner on Monday, and that went well. They did kind of put out feelers for more support from individual cities. So Kurt Ivey is on the board, but it sounded like there'd be a spot on the board for one of us if we want to help out. So that's all about drug prevention and leadership, basically, in the high school population. So if anyone wants to take on that assignment, I think they would welcome the help. I also attended a CEC meeting this week, and things are moving along in terms of taking care of staff, because we will be closing down the community education channel. I was going to ask Matt, have you heard from legal counsel at Utah Tech? I think it's Brian Graff. That might be wrong.
No, not that I've,
Okay, they
not
should
that
be
I
reaching
remember
out
seeing.
pretty soon, because we'll have to either amend the interlocal agreement or just have a separation agreement of some sort. So every city will have to review that. But everything's going okay there, and CC is still running as normally. Went over the budget, and things are looking good. They did state that the request from each city for paying into it will just stay flat, even though population numbers have changed. They're just going to keep it the same as last year. I also attended with Mayor a meeting on the Orchard, Tobler Park, and I can share with the council the loose plan right now is to work on retaining, like changing the alignment down there to where the road will actually be, and then putting a retaining wall in the correct spot. That's kind of the first step. And then potentially order some bare root trees next spring, and then plant them next spring. But we basically need to put our order in pretty soon. So we've also planned we'll have to go out and kind of walk the orchard and get an idea of how many trees we need and everything, but that's moving along. And then I did have one question from Brooks Seeley with the track. She says she's had some problems with people drinking alcohol on the inside the track last year, so she's going to put up some signs. But she wanted to know what the rule is on open containers in the park.
No
It's
alcohol in the park.
Yeah, I was just reading that ordinance.
So she'd like to put some pretty strong language on her signs, but she wanted to just make sure she was.
Yeah, the parks say no smoking or no alcohol allowed in the parks.
Okay, perfect. I'll reply that to her. And that's all I have.
Might be worth on if she does sign citing, getting the city code exactly and citing that. So and if she has issues, please, sir, phone call away.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I
Thank you.
stumbled on that last week. I was looking at something else, so.
That it, Jared?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just to add on to what Jared said about the Tobler Park, we are looking at a little bit of a downsized master plan over there. Going in and working probably on the north half first and get a portion of the orchard, a portion of the garden, the road grading, some of the tiers built, maybe some of the main infrastructure and stuff in, and then the trees ordered. It takes about a year for the trees to get here. So we'll get the trees ordered, and then followed up with a second phase maybe in fiscal year 26 that could include, an arbor, maybe some restrooms, some of the gravel paths, some of the more amenity type improvements, again, focusing on kind of the north half, leaving the south half where we used to have the big barn, the parking area, a lot of the community amenities for a future phase that can be funded when we've got funds available for it. But go ahead and get something in so that we do have the orchard and the garden, the planter boxes, and the setup for the road grading. So when we've got money for those when the Hafen property clears and we can get the road straightened out down there.
What's the name of the park again?
Tobler Park, it's
Tobler?
Tobler. It's the old church orchard. Tobler. It's the family that originally farmed the parcel
Okay.
that's there, was the Toblers, so it's Tobler Park. But it's the church orchard, the apricot orchard.
And I would just add, if you have any specific requests for trees that should be there, we're open to that. I mean, right now we're relying on residents in the valley that really know what grows well, and this is meant to be kind of a good example to residents of what tree they might want to put in their backyard because it grows well right here. And same with the gardening. It'll be pretty limited gardening, I think, just again to demonstrate how you could pull it off in your backyard. We won't have a whole lot of production per se. It'll be more teaching.
We did get word from the water district that they're going to help fund 50% of the cost of the weather track controllers in parks and the the My Meter, is that right? The My Meter software that Dustin got. They're looking at possibly helping on the Crestview irrigation line at some point in the future. Just so you know, construction should have started on Crestview. I haven't been up there, but the contract's been awarded. It did. Okay.
Yeah, they're going now.
So they're putting that irrigation line from the park all the way up to the elementary school along Crestview. And that'll allow us to convert the outdoor irrigation at the elementary school from culinary use to irrigation water. The water company, the canal company, will be providing the water and metering the water for that, since if we tried to do it, we would exceed our share allotment. So we're still actively pursuing shares, but we don't have enough to do it. So the irrigation company, the canal company will be doing that. But it was good to get some participation back from the district. It was pretty high on my list. We were the first community to start sending them surcharge checks. They had to call and ask us what they were when they got them. And then they kind of were hesitant to fund any of our projects. And so, you know, I did my normal thing and threw a fit, and they funded 50% of the first two. So we'll see how that goes. We met with Black Desert and had our normal monthly communication coordination meeting with Black Desert. Talked about the South Village project and Red Mountain Drive. The signal is under design. The power poles are getting ready to be, new foundations are getting ready to be poured. So you're seeing a lot of movement on that. Probably the biggest issue that we talked about in the meeting was the PGA and LPGA special events and how they plan to facilitate that. They're working on a conditional use application for site activities that are currently happening out there. Some of the rock quarry work, some of they have a tree orchard out there. A lot of that stuff, we want to get them up to snuff on their permits, and then a special event permits for both events. And I'm going to put the chiefs on the spot because I was told that they've been coordinating, that they have a group that is coordinating with our public safety people, so both chiefs. This is a huge event that is going to have a lot of impacts on our fire EMS as well as our police. I'm assuming that they're bringing money with their request for service.
Yes. We've met with them a couple of times, had a really good meeting. I'm a little bit concerned about Pioneer Parkway, to be honest with you. Some of the plans there and some of the parking issues. So we talked about that, and I was encouraged by what I heard about how well some of the people they brought in who have done PGA events in the past. I told them that our costs are going to double because I think we undercharge. I've looked around at other agencies, and you know, we need to. I got an idea of what we're going to need traffic-wise, not EMS or fire. That's certainly the chief's thing there, but we're certainly going to have to go outside our agency and bring in, because you know, we're talking 4 days here, maybe more, and then they're going to require some security, mainly inside. That I think my thought was that they've got that well in hand. I'm not sure what they're doing there, but as far as the outside, where our focus is the traffic, and of course any calls that come inside, and we're actively planning that. I think people always go in with more confidence than they should have sometimes in these, because you know it's going to be pretty big for us. Getting in and out, and the parking by Harmon's specifically. They have some thoughts on that. It's really good. It works. But we're looking at, I told them that we're probably looking at, with our officers, 24-hour coverage at $100 an hour per officer. So that would cover all of our costs. I don't want any surprises with our overtime or anything like that, because anything we brought in. So our meetings have gone well. I know the chiefs had their meetings as far as what they need, but I've talked to a couple of people who have gone to those events. I certainly made myself available to go. If they want me to go and attend one, I'm happy to go. So I think I'll be coming with more as we move along. I suspect that probably middle of April, May, we'll get some formal things before all of you to kind of tell. But I am concerned with Pioneer Parkway. I'm kind of curious what the thoughts are, especially for that intersection and the parking going in and out. So, and we made some recommendations for off-site parking that they didn't know about. We made recommendations to use the old airport. We talked about the new area out there in the Shivowitz area that's got some asphalt. We've talked about that Fire Lake parking that could be made available to them. But the question is the shuttle situation. So, so far, they've got some really smart people, and we've been impressed with what they've told us. My panic kind of went away a little bit, but anyway, that's the update on that. But I will come to you when they start giving us things formally. I'll be coming to you with the costs, what I see, and get your thoughts on that. Okay. So right now, I feel pretty good about it.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Chief?
So I'll just comment on the fire EMS side. So we met with, I was looking it up, the gentleman's name's John Kubal. So they hired him. I guess he's done prior PGA events back east. So they hired him full-time from the PGA. But Con and I met with him once here, and then we just talked about like fire. They have an incident action plan from previous events. So Torrey Pines, I forget what that one's called. There was one, I don't think it was Augusta, but it was back east. So he kind of gave us those plans that they've used from the past for what they do for EMS coverage. So we'll follow the state guidelines and then make sure we're staffed adequately. I think there'll probably be 2 ambulances. We actually have some e-bikes that we'll deploy. And then he talked about working with our medical directors. They want to work with Intermountain. So they actually want to have a physician on site. So I think our medical director will want to participate in that. He's a pretty good guy. So we'll have him there, or Dr. Crosby if we don't get our director. And then, like Chief said, I think they're going Monday to Sunday, but then Friday, Saturday are the big spike in events. He talked about, I think it was around 8,000 people, but this John Kubal that we're working with that's organizing, they just said they want it to be a good experience the first time, and then there's issues with the lava, so getting around. Normally, like in Torrey Pines or wherever they go, crowds can freely move about, but there'll be issues with this. So they're going to limit, basically is what he said, they'll limit their tickets, so they don't have a huge crowd that we can't provide services for, and it won't be they want it to be a great experience, so we can do it again. So that's kind of the EMS side of things. Everything's on site. The fire side, they're going to use part of the building to do cooking and preparations. So they'll have some hoods and such that Con will inspect to make sure we're good there. I think the main thing is the exterior. They'll have tents. So canvas tents, those got to be fire rated. Our new fee schedule has a cost to those tents. So we'll try to make sure that gets coordinated. The TRC that I went to with Con, I think it was last week, for their initial permit was in Ivans. So I'm not sure if they'll do, tents on the Santa Clara side, and then
They're planning some, so they'll be coming through TRC here too.
So we'll try to just make sure we're there and coordinating with Con, and John's been great, this gentleman that we've been in contact with, trying to get those fees assessed, and I think we'll be good. I think it's neat because it's right on site. There's not going to be a lot of off-site stuff for us. I know the parking might be another thing, a lot of shuttles, but our force will be on the golf course EMS-wise, so.
Okay, good.
And that's where we're at, so.
And you're working out a fee too with them?
Yeah, we'll just use our fee schedule. Once John knows more about tent sizes and how much capacity, we'll start getting that going, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked to them at length about I was really concerned about their transportation plan, how they're going to route people in. They've indicated they're going to be using a lot of shuttle buses, bringing people in from parking in other areas. I'm concerned because there's only 2 accesses to that side. On the Santa Clara side, you've got Red Mountain that's currently under construction, And you've got Affirmation Drive that accesses off of Rachel, that is fronted on a school, and Goober Park and Senior Games is going on at the same time. So there's already a ton of traffic on Rachel. So I'm trying to get the bus route to access via Rachel. They're talking about some on-site parking on what was the old Regal Home site. Council, those of you familiar with it, it's within the Black Desert Project. It's across the wash from Desert Village, south of Solace, up there. But they're coming back to us with a lot more detail on that, and especially their transportation plan. So we'll make sure you're going to want to be to those TRC meetings when they get to that point. So yeah, we meet with them every month. Was it at the third Thursday? Yes. Third Thursday. That would probably be a meeting that you may want to have a rep to. 10:30. You want to invite them, Jim? Yeah. Okay.
Mayor,
We probably need somebody from police, chief.
Yeah, I plan on being there myself.
Perfect.
Mayor, can I ask two questions on that? Will Red Mountain, will the light be in by that event? Do we know?
I don't know if it'll be in for the first one or not.
And maybe this is for Brock, county reimbursement from TRT because of this event.
That's why I want the costs.
Yeah, I gotta believe if we're putting $2 million toward advertising for it, that we certainly could be reimbursed to provide fire and EMS.
They've
and
indicated
police.
they would help us with it, so that's why I want to make sure if the event itself is not covering the costs, that we're getting some TRT reimbursement.
Thank you.
One of the interesting, I'll be short, but interesting point is they don't have any EMS. You think something like that, they'd have their own staff, but they don't. So I know like Ironman, they have something to help us, but so it'll be on us.
Okay, but there'll be a lot more information coming forth on those events. So you'll probably start getting asked questions from the residents. Like I say, the city's trying to stay on top of it. Oh, it's been a busy 2 weeks. Council, we've had a couple of questions come up, particularly regarding the Silverado commercial property. We're wondering what your thoughts are about maybe looking at the PD commercial ordinance. There's a loophole in there now when it talks about residential uses within the PD commercial that I think we want to look at maybe closing. So I've asked Matt to possibly put together a temporary ordinance that could come forth so that we would limit any new applications on the PDC until we have time to rework that ordinance and address the residential uses inside the ordinance. You guys okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you were here during those other approvals, you know the loophole that I'm talking about. I think we need to get it closed. So Matt, let's go ahead and put that together, get it back on an agenda. There's been some discussion about short-term rentals during major events. If we were to open that up and open it up citywide, there's pluses and minuses. So we may be talking about that in the future. There was a meeting I met with the County Commission and Hurricane Valley Fire this morning. Representative I say his name wrong, it's not Ellison, it's Eliason? Eelson was there. He indicated the bill that didn't come out of the Senate committee during the last session has a very high chance of approval next session. He's very optimistic about it, that would provide some additional EMT money, funding for the cities that provide the EMT services and fire. But they're going to try, it sounds like there's going to be a special session, and if they can get the governor to add this to it, they may try and run it during the special if the governor will sign off on it. So we may come to you and say make a few calls to the governor's staff, or I'm just waiting to hear back from him to see if that's still an option. Hurricane Valley Fire has got some extreme financial difficulties not getting that funding. And so they're pushing for some assistance from the county as hard, or maybe a lot harder than we are. I appreciate being invited to the meeting today to kind of hear some of the discussion from the county side on what they can and can't do and what they can fund and can't fund. They may be looking at a property tax increase in Hurricane Valley Fire District of about 35%, just to cover those fire service fees. So more to come on this one, especially when we get into, your budget is next week, next meeting? You gonna bring the budget?
April 17th at the work meeting.
April 17th, we'll bring our budget in. I feel pretty good about where we're at, like Ben said. I think the committee's done a good job, staff's done a good job putting something together that I think we're gonna be able to live with. We'll see how our counterparts in Ivans feel about it. But I think we're making progress that way. So, flood control, TAC met today, Ben. They're not gonna have a meeting next week with the EC. There's nothing on the agenda, so take that one off your calendar. You can have another night off.
I was still going to give a report on it at the next meeting, so now you spoiled it for everybody else.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Did I have anything else I need to talk about?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. We don't have executive session tonight?
We do.
No, surprise. What are we talking about?
Litigation.
Potential
Just an
litigation? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody from the staff level got a hole burning in their pocket? Need to talk to council? I see a hand. Oh, I see two. I knew you couldn't refuse.
Mine's really quick. First off, going back to the Black Desert thing, we can do that. It's just, I think they're underestimating what they're going to need. And so it's like building a home, add 30%, you might get close. That's kind of my game plan is there, but I don't think there's anything there that we can't do as long as we get the plan early enough. And we can plan that. I think it's going to require more than the police. I think it's going to require some public works, some parks folks, and I think everybody knows that. As to the alcohol in the parks, one of the things that we've noticed that we're going to get on is after the game, things are turning into a tailgate. I've noticed it myself. It's nothing that's become a problem, but you know, if you come up in a marked patrol car and you're in uniform, everybody acts like they're just getting out of church, right? So we've got to get there a little early. I'm not concerned with the youth stuff. It's when we have the adults come in and they do their softball tournaments and things like that. I've noticed myself some things that we're going to probably deal with. But if one of the problems we get in, we've got to have the people willing to say what they saw. We just can't walk along a park and say, open up your ice chest. You know, there's some constitutional things that get involved there. We have to have witnesses. A lot of people, well, I don't want to get involved, but. So anyway, having said that, and then like our 2020 thing, I think those of you who watched it, I just want to point out Captain Rogers, Lieutenant Studley, everybody was involved in that as much as anybody was, but it was an all-hands-on thing, and we are getting flooded with requests. I don't know what we're going to do with those, but we will figure that out. Now, as to the meeting, the talk, I've been surprised at how many people show up to those. I am going to put a presentation together. I mean, I look at it as the fact that I represent both cities. Although we're paid for by Ivans, you guys pay your share too, right? So my thought was, I want to remind everybody why we joined in the first place. Brock and I had a conversation about that today. I think those who were not around when we formed up have forgotten the reasons why we're so much better in certain things together, and we can get through all the, you know, if you want to predict the future, look what's happening with Hurricane Fire a little bit. There's some messages there for everyone. But I'm going to send out my presentation to Brock and to Dell. I'd like for you to see it and be comfortable and make any comments, because my presentation is why we're together, the history of it, why we should, you know, stay together, and why we're better that way. But I would like any input, anything you would like covered particularly. Please take a look at that, and if I don't get any comments back, I'm going to assume you're okay with everything. But I would really like to have some feedback on that presentation. So they know, and I think it'd be very, very good, and I know that looks like a really busy night for everyone, to have at least a council person there.
We'll have more than one.
I think it would be really good, and maybe make sure you you get time to get on the stage and present also. So I know myself and the fire chief, we plan on doing but I am going to do a short presentation, and I would certainly, again, like, you'll probably have it to me in the middle of next week. I'll have it to you if you could get it back to me before so I can make some presentations.
Brock, the council meeting on the 24th. Let's keep the agenda so we're done in time to get to both of these.
I will say the item that we have that will be there, it's also be on the work meeting. There will be work meeting on the 17th. We're going to have the historic district guidelines update will be then, and we'll bring it back again on the 24th just to verify from the discussion on the 17th to make sure we're good. Because the first meeting in May is when council will be before you to adopt. So we want to make sure we have 2 meetings to make sure we get everything ironed out and we're ready to go. Other than that, we can keep that.
That's what I'm saying.
agenda
Let's keep that agenda. That'll probably fill an hour and a half if we're talking about that.
I'm hoping the hour and a half is on the 17th, and that one is only 20 to 30.
It's not a public hearing at council?
Not till the May 8th, I believe, is when it will be a public hearing.
Right, but we can still allow the public to come out. We know during work sessions, they may have comments, and that was the one announcement I was going to make. We are going to share the draft with the Historic District Committee Tuesday night, so Janine and Ben, you're both welcome to attend and be part of that discussion. After that discussion, we'll be sending it out to others after we discuss, so the word's going to be on the street. And this is what we talked about this afternoon. We're asking them not to share after our initial discussion on the draft, and then we'll send it to Council, Planning Commission, and I'm sure members in the committee will start routing it around as well. So.
And as I understand, we don't have to have a public hearing on this. So, but if you would.
I promised them one.
Yeah, because they're going to come out and want to share. So the question would then be for you, Mayor, the initial thought was to have it on the 24th, to have the public hearing, because on the 8th, might be past time that we're going to make the changes because we're going to looking to adopt that night. But if not, then we can, on the work meeting on the 17th, would maybe be, I'll say, us suspending the rules, as Lance would say from legislation, we'll suspend the rules of, on a work meeting when we do the public comment. It says, but not public comment on an item that's currently on the agenda, but I'll let that be that they can come and speak maybe that night on that item.
Okay. All right. We can talk more as it gets closer, so thank you. Thanks, Jim. Chief, I want to echo what the council said about the professionalism of the department, both chiefs, the EMTs and the police officers. They did a great job on national TV, and sometimes that's hard to do, so thank them for us.
Sincerely give kudos to Matt Entz, our city attorney, because everything that I had to respond to, he was there to provide legal guidance to promptly. Thanks for showing up and helping staff, and that was very reassuring, I think, for a lot of our staff to have that direction. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Frankly, I was honored. I was actually really excited for our first responders that they could, receive some attention for the work they do. So it's great.
And if you haven't watched it, watch it. It's good TV. Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss potential litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Krista and a second by Jarrett to go into executive session. Any question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, staff. We'll excuse the staff. Appreciate it. It's good seeing you here, Bob, and you look sharp. Yeah. Okay, we got a minute or so break till Chris switches over the machine.